Blast off.
We did it.
I think I'm going to go with blast off right now. I just went to did I tell you I went to the Air and Space Museum?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still geeking out a little bit right now.
What was the coolest thing you saw there?
Oh, I really like the stealth bomber, I believe. The big black stealth bomber.
Is it called like the Blackbird or something?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Okay.
Or Black Hawk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some
Awesome.
bird of prey. The craziest thing is like how sleek it is and how dark it is and how uniform it is. It looks the most like a futuristic spacecraft thing.
Yeah. I went there about 10 years ago. And I think it was the first or second year that they put that in that museum. And I thought it was amazing. And it was huge too.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that looks really cool. And then a very close second is the space and the rockets and all that.
Yeah. They had watched the Discovery there, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Oh, yeah. Man. And then all the walking. Got a lot of steps. Part of my Fit Quest, actually, last week, I think, or last time maybe, was all the steps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to do your Fit Quest first? You want to do my first?
Okay, let's do Fit Quest. We'll do my Fit Quest first, and unless you're ready, and then we'll do your Fit Quest. And then what are we talking about today? We're talking about the changing of seasons.
Okay.
All right, cool. And maybe some other stuff, but we'll at least do that.
Down.
All right. I'll do my Fit Quest then. Let's see. So last week I told you that I was starting like a new type of program.
Right.
So that went horribly. I've talked on this podcast before about me getting back spasms.
Yeah.
But it's been a while. I haven't had one in almost 2 years, or about a year and a half or so. So I think maybe if anyone's been talking with or listening with us since we did the Need Athlete, which is still online, I think we're probably talking about it there.
Okay.
But I occasionally will get back spasms, and like after the second lift, so after my 4th day of training, I woke up the next morning, and what happens when my back spasms is my torso turns into an S, and it's like I'm like shifted like this, and my abs and my back are just like completely locked,
cramping
or whatever. And so I spent 2 days as an S, and it was very
walking
painful.
like Frankenstein.
Barely walking. Yeah. So I did that. I walked to the gym so that I could stretch, at least try and stretch, which is interesting in itself. But okay. Anyways, I'll get off this, but here's some lessons that happened.
Okay.
So I immediately wanted to medicate. I was heavy on that for a couple days.
For pain
And really just to take a little bit edge off of like your total muscles. And it just really takes that edge off a little bit.
Muscle relaxation.
Yep. And huge belly and doing huge belly breaths.
Yes. Good. Okay.
To try and really try and expand my whole core and not just the front core, but like into my back, into like my hips as much as I could.
Yes.
Okay. That was the one bad thing, was immediately wanted to medicate. And the second bad thing, it's like my food floodgates just opened.
Yeah.
And so I was just curious on what you thought about that, and with your clients, and because I know you've trained just hundreds and hundreds of people. And so like I've been not eating horribly, but I've wanted to eat horribly every night. And so it's been a struggle with that. And so those were my two things. Today, I feel almost 100%. I say I'm at 90%. So I went on a 2-mile walk yesterday. I went on a 2-mile walk today. Very light stretching, because I did some deep stretching yesterday. And because I'm no longer locked up.
Right.
So I should have said that first.
Yeah. You don't look locked up right now.
Yeah. No. So I was locked up for 2 days, and then I woke up and I wasn't locked up, but then I was super sore. And so that's when I started walking and stretching more. Yesterday, I did some deep stretches and I felt like I probably went a little too deep.
Mm.
And then today, I just did some walking. I'll do some light stretching after this and pretty much throughout the whole entire day because I have
I'm
to
like
play golf.
stretching, thinking of you being all crazy.
I know. I was like out in my gym hanging on the pull-up bar like before I got in here just to
Yeah.
decompress my spine as much as possible because I have a golf tournament on
Oh,
Saturday
fuck.
that I'm playing with Amber, like an actual tournament, not just a for fun.
Okay.
And so,
Oh,
so
no.
I have
Play
to be
like an
good.
old man, Josh. Play like an old man. Okay.
It might help me just like little swings,
Yeah.
you know.
Don't try and kill it.
So that
Straight, like mid lane. Pew, pew.
exactly. But I feel pretty good today, and tomorrow's Friday, so I have one more day of recovery. I'm
Okay.
not gonna I'm not gonna start any more workout.
Do anything crazy, man.
Yeah.
Freak out.
S- So my next Fit Quest next week, I'll update you on my new plan that I come up with because
Okay.
I have some ideas of what I want to change, but I think it's going to be an experimental week because I'm very discouraged because I've been getting these for about 15 years or so.
Right.
And I'll go on runs where I'll get a year, like when I got pretty strong when I worked at the gym, I didn't until it happened, I didn't feel a lot of pain and stuff like that. But then once it happened, then it's like anytime I looked at a bar over 225,
Yeah.
it became mental,
Yeah. Yeah.
like a little bit of mental and a little bit of just fear and a little bit of more of the philosophy of like, how strong do you really need to be like to still live a good life?
Yes.
And so I was
You
just
start
hoping
thinking
that
about that kind of stuff, especially right now, right?
right now, anytime you have kids, if I had to work every day, like I thought about that a lot. That's why I stopped playing competitive basketball because I just started rolling my ankle too often and it would knock me out of work for 2 or 3 days. And if I was in a manual labor job, then that's a big deal if you can't do any work. But anyway, getting off the subject here.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. I think it's very important that people hear this. This is one of the reasons I love doing FitQuest. I love how like transparent we can be with these kind of things. And
Yeah.
like this is a hard thing. And I think when people go through things like this, it's very useful to hear that I'm not a psychologist, first of all, but it feels a lot like a mini depressive episode, basically, in times of injury. And I don't think that's a reach to say that, right? I think as the kids would say these days, it's giving depression, bruh.
I don't watch social media, man. I don't know what you're
Yo,
talking
I'm
about.
gonna educate you. Vibes. It's giving mini depressive episode vibes, which I think is normal as well, by the way. I think that's something your body and your brain need to wrap themselves around this recovery period, basically. And it needs to learn from it. So hopefully it doesn't happen again. And the stick usually works more than the carrot a lot of times on your psyche, basically. And you just got the stick, basically. Like the world, the universe, whatever deity you want to attribute it to, you just gave you the stick, basically. And you're like, what? Wow. In so many ways, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I think you're right. Is if it's happened before, you can get through it a little bit better.
But it is
Because
small t traumatic too, I would say, which is why your nervous system, I think, is more susceptible in situations like this. And your nervous system and your psychology, that's the same highway. What's going through there when the anxiety is high, for example, or the depression is high, for example, like the cortisol is up. How did that change how things go through your nervous system and any kind of recall of injury prior is going to flood that system.
right, that's very true. And then it's good. So it's really good. What I've learned over the years is to I need to just calm my body as much as I can. And I think that's why I do what I do. I know what to do, and
Mhm.
I know it's just going to take a couple days.
Yeah.
And it works. And I'm not saying that it's like perfect, but what's the alternative? I have to calm my body and calming my mind, and using those big belly breaths really gets into
Big belly
place.
breaths. I'm saying for so many things, I would say like of the most underrated movements, I think that's probably top three, maybe number one, top three underrated movements. Is
Because it relieves tension from places that your normal big stretches don't usually get to. And what I mean is all the little tension that could be in your abs and just in weird places like between like where your lat and your QL meets, and really any of those places compared to a lot of the stretches you do. And that's why I like getting those big belly breaths. And I think that's probably why things like yoga use that throughout the whole entire practice, just to really, I think of it like getting in the little kinks and creaks like in your body, or like when you're fixing stuff, that's what you're doing. Like you're getting into those little creaks
dude, you're
and
massaging your organs that probably aren't really getting like at all parts of your body. I would say have a movement requirement for optimal health and function, right?
yeah,
There's a movement requirement. Some of that is like passive movement. Some of that's active movement, for example. And that area, I think as a culture, we're more chest breathers, which is yoga is more of an Eastern culture type thing. Right. And as a culture, we're the go-getter, the like type A, the early bird catches the worm, all that kind of culture causes, or which comes first, chicken or the egg,
right.
but it correlates very strongly with chest breathing, basically.
I like it.
And anxiety and all those kind of things also turn into chest breathing a lot of times. When you're back, like chest breathing isn't bad, belly breathing isn't bad, belly breathing isn't good, chest breathing, for example. It's the balance based on the requirements you have in your daily life. But there is a balance between those areas, I would say, that needs to be found. And a lot of people are way too heavy on the chest breathing, honestly. And the belly breathing will help with the recovery, basically, more when you get better at it.
Right. When you get stuck in like the, what is it, parasympathetic state and need to get into a sympathetic state, it's when you
It's one of the
really
things.
change.
Yep. And it's one of those things where you can tap into your nervous system. And I love Wim Hof, for example. I freaking love Wim Hof. And he seems a little bit nutty, but there's a lot of, there's Breathe by James Nestor. Have you heard of that book?
No.
Oh man, really good book about all the different breathing techniques that this guy went and researched for the book and went through and put himself through and all the different areas of the world and all these different traditions. And then looked at the science behind it and broke it all down into his book. And I think it did pretty well. I think it was a pretty good selling, popular.
Breathing is everything. And if anybody's played sports before and you needed to take a free throw at the end of the game,
Mhm.
using your breath is the only thing that really is going to slow and focus you down. It's proven in all of elite sports that breathing is what gets it down. Everyone should be learning, I think, a little bit about their breath, at least just focusing on it, especially if you're in sports or do any kind of high stress work, or really anybody. I definitely agree. And I've definitely noticed the
You
change since
feel
I
like you're
started.
part of the rat race and all, I would say.
Right.
If you're any
For
part of the
everybody.
common rat race, if you feel like you're in it, if you got your toes in there and you feel like if you're calling it the rat race,
Yeah. You
you're in.
probably need to work on it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I have one more part of my fit quest and then I'll send it to
Okay. Okay.
you.
Yeah.
So this is a question that is for maybe a kid, or maybe it's a little bit of a philosophical question, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should you eat broccoli dipped in ranch or just no broccoli at all? And the reason I started thinking about that is
Yes.
because my 7-year-old daughter will sit there and she will definitely crush like a whole entire bowl of broccoli as long as she can dip it in ranch. But if she doesn't dip it in ranch, she might not get her vegetables. So that's why I think this is an interesting question. And what do you, first off, what about just from a strictly nutrition
Okay.
level?
If
What do you think?
I'm thinking like a registered dietitian and I'm not trying to, okay, if this wasn't a little kid and I wasn't worried about their psyche as much,
Yeah,
uh, okay, for example, so you want that first thought?
sure, sure.
Okay. So first thought, if it wasn't a little kid and I'm not trying to mess with them, their psyche has a little stronger foundation, I would say. I would talk about what are some ways to make sure that portion size fits in your plan. For example, like how does that portion size look to you in terms of your regular routine? Can you have a healthier ranch? There's yogurt ranches, for example.
Mhm.
Actually, there's this one yogurt ranch and I like it better than most ranches, other than I think like Marie Callender Ranch, which is that really
Okay.
thick ranch. Good for
Oh,
veggie dip, that one. But there's this
yeah.
yogurt ranch that I'd really like. And it's 45 calories, for example, per
Oh,
serving.
that's not bad.
Yeah,
I wonder if you could just take some yogurt and stick the Hidden Valley Ranch like seasoning packet into yogurt. I wonder if that makes a pretty good ranch.
right. Hmm. That was weird. Okay. There we go. That's because I moved my AirPod. I opened up my AirPod by mistake because I can't stop fidgeting. It's a problem. Okay. But if it's a kid, happy they're getting a taste for vegetables. If it's a kid like, oh, they're enjoying vegetables in some way, she's not obsessive about it where she's like having broccoli and ranch at every meal. And like she's going to turn into a broccoli or anything like that. You know, you have a pretty good balance with the rest of her food, I'm assuming. So yeah, she's not like, it's not all ranch and a little bit of broccoli. It sounds like it's like close to 50-50, maybe not total
Right.
calories wise, but at least total volume wise, maybe.
Okay. Okay. Exactly. And so she probably sees that from like myself and my wife, like probably like we dip it in ranch. And how often do you actually eat a piece of broccoli or a carrot or something without dipping it in something?
Yeah.
It's
And
another question.
you actually just touched on the biggest point, I think, which is like the biggest thing you need to do is model good behavior, good eating
Right.
behavior, basically.
Right.
And if she's eating broccoli with ranch, I feel like she's on a good track over. Well, yeah,
And then, so I like what you said about the portion, like your portion size too. So if it is, say, me instead of a kid,
right.
and I would rather have a bunch of salads and veggies and whatnot, maybe dipped in some ranch, and then not have sweets like throughout the day, maybe throughout for 6 days a week or whatever.
But it
And then
helps satisfy your like hunger or whatever other cravings you have, keeps those sweets at bay.
just having that little bit of ranch replaces that sweet, but it also allows me to have the veggies and all that kind of stuff in the right amount of quantities.
Right. And your kids see you eating veggies.
It's interesting. Everyone, when I first got into fitness and say somebody stalled on their fat loss,
Oh,
people would be like, what about their ranch? What
yeah.
about their
They're getting
sausage?
micromanaged real quickly. I think when people stall out
Yeah.
and like in a way, that's the coach's job. I think, it's one of those things you got to play by ear. Most people, though, I think don't maybe realize or don't avoid talking about how food is a relationship for them. I would
Mhm.
say if that's the case, I don't think bludgeoning is a good strategy. I think first getting them to the point where they can acknowledge that is a good strategy,
Right.
basically. But people will try and bludgeon them. But if they know that and they've got like a strict goal, like bodybuilding competition is the thing I think of. But like an actual competition, like anything other than like an actual competition, you don't need to be that anal retentive unless maybe you like anal retentive stuff and you like being bludgeoned. That doesn't seem like a good idea for a long-term strategy to me. It, but then
Yeah.
like might be in a phase of your life where you're just like bludgeon me. And some people seem to be that way, honestly. It's not my choice to make completely.
Exactly. All right. I like those insights. I saw this interview once with Jason Statham, and his nutritionist walks up halfway through the interview and hands him a plate, and they show it on the video. and it's just 2 carrots, 2 pieces of broccoli, and 2 big pieces of chicken with
Yeah.
no sauce. And Jason looks at the camera and eats broccoli. And it's just like, I hate this. I need
Yeah, that's
ranch.
another one. That's like a bodybuilding competition. Like you have a date where you have to be a specific fat percentage and look, you know,
Yeah.
and there's stakes on the line.
But normal people and kids can have a little bit of ranch.
If we gotta like, what are the priorities? Is this a top priority in your top 5 priority in your life right now? Because if not, I don't want to be like pushing you off a cliff, basically.
Right.
Because that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna jump. You're gonna be jumping off a cliff with no parachute, basically. Begging me to push you or begging me to stop pushing you, but you told me at the beginning to push you or not to push you. Gets very confusing.
All right. All right, cool. I like that answer. I
Mhm.
like it. All
Yeah.
right. So I'm done with my fit quest.
Okay.
You go.
A little bit about like breathing, honestly, and heart rate, which we were talking about last week. So the thing I've been looking at with my like data from my watch lately has been my heart rate over time. And I check in with that every once in a while. I haven't checked it in a couple months though. So I like to see that my resting heart rate is stable or going down or trending downwards, basically. And that my daily heart rate isn't getting weird spikes that are usually because just I'm stressed, basically. Like something happened with the
Exercise.
kids. It's usually something happened with the kids, basically.
Yeah.
And heart rate goes, and I don't want too many of those. I don't feel like that's a good thing. And although I can't keep my kids from doing stressful things, I can affect my response to those things,
Yes.
which is sounds very obvious, right?
No, but everyone will blame, oh, darn it, my kids did this, but it's your reaction. This
Yes.
is like philosophy 101. It's your
Yes.
reaction to an outside stimulus is the only thing that matters.
Because it's within you to choose your reaction or you don't have free will, basically.
Right.
And then the rabbit hole, deeper we go. Yeah. So I've been thinking about that this week as I look at my heart rate data without going too far down the rabbit hole. And Josh and I are both like, let's go down the rabbit hole after Fit Quest. But it's been useful. And I've been trying to notice, this has only been a few days. So I got to think honestly about ways to remind myself to catch myself. You know, it's one thing that meditation helps. Meditation, I think, helps you catch yourself. But then you got that next step after you catch yourself of redirecting yourself,
Right.
basically, or talking to yourself with a better voice, basically. If
Yeah.
that makes
All within a second.
Yeah, all within like nanoseconds, like
Yeah.
microseconds. I don't know, with tenths of seconds, basically. And so I'm trying to put in like a heart rate-esque mantra. Like, what is my heart rate at that time? Like, made me think.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get myself to think about my heart rate when those things come up.
Oh, so you can just focus on your heart and listen to it slow down. Would be
And
cool.
breathe through my belly and do all the
Yeah.
things that I know, like that. If I think about my heart rate, it opens up another folder. Basically, I go into a heart rate folder. I've been able to do it once in the last couple of days. Well, it feels really helpful. It feels really helpful. So I want to try and improve on that and increase the frequency of that. So that's Fit Quest part 1 and related to the breathing that we were talking about. And then
That's huge, Fit Quest. I mean, that right there is like the ultimate. That's what everyone talks about, becoming a monk or any of that kind of stuff. What you're saying is becoming a master and being able to get a feeling, because you're always going to have a feeling, whatever that might be, happy, sad, mad, or anything. There's always going to be that 1/100th of a second after that where you have a choice before your primal instincts take over, or the millions and thousands of lenses that have been put onto your mind over the past 30 something years. And it's your job to get rid of all that in half a second and not react like how you would consider negatively in that situation,
React, yeah, more negative emotion than positive emotion. Yeah.
or however you want to react. And I think the bigger
More
question is like
effective.
how often.
I think effectively would be effectively react in the most effective way for your values and priorities.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you're reacting for the first time to something, then how much harder is it to react how you want to effectively if this is the first time like dealing with something?
Yeah.
And so like you have to train yourself to be able to react to the most random stuff instead of the normal stuff
Yeah.
to be able to really become awesome. And how hard is that? It's very hard.
I think about surprise a lot. I think about like when you're surprised by things.
Hmm.
And so like you can be happily surprised, right? You can be sadly surprised. You can be all these different emotionally surprised reactions, right?
Hmm.
But like surprise is like the heart rate inducing thing. I can't even get
Right.
the words to explain it. This is where I am with it. But I've been thinking about it like that. And then I've been thinking about like you're surprised and then an emotion arises. What's the chain of events? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the initial surprise, which is like the heart rate, the adrenaline, the cortisol, maybe. And then the emotion will release different ratios of other hormones almost in a cascade or like a river that's been paved hundreds of times, basically. And there's like all these different tributaries, basically, and water flows of hormones is how I think of it that can
Okay.
go through those tributaries, like your veins and your nervous system and everything like
Sure.
that.
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
and you gotta, in that split nanosecond, you gotta like, you get into this little pond area of thought and control. And then it's going to go into those tributaries, basically, based on the direction you can put your mind in with a theme you can give your mind,
Yeah,
or
because
it's just going to go down the most trodden ones for those emotions. It's just going to go down the tributaries that are most dug out and run through already.
yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it because Stoics always talk about how you are in control of that of your response or whatever.
Hmm.
But I know for myself, at certain times I'll get put into an emotional state and then not be able to get out of it. Like no matter how much I breathe or
Hmm.
go sit in another room, it's not like I can just flip a switch in my head and
Yeah.
it
Well, there's like a
leaves.
problem that's not getting solved in some ways. And the tools don't feel readily available, maybe. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think I hit a bad shot on the golf course and I've been really good at not having that control me or whatever.
Right.
Because that's a big part of golf. And I remember I hit 3 in a row that were bad and then like just something clicked in my head that I couldn't get out of. Some kind of emotional funk or mental funk
Yeah.
that was, and no matter any tools like breathing or anything like that wouldn't change it.
All different clubs, big favorite club.
Well, yeah, I put the tees from my left pocket into my right
Yeah.
pocket. I turned my hat around backwards. I did everything,
Yeah.
but
Checklist.
and so it's interesting what you're saying, like how it go like those things will go through your body, and then at what point and where in your body can you fight back or whatever. But that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think of it as much as that as just you feel it and then how do you get out of it. But I like that in my mind because now I can like maybe stop a tributary here or there or something.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps me to visualize it for a lot of things, honestly. If I can't experience it, if I can visualize it, I can semi experience it a little bit. And then if I can experience it, I can learn it. I'm very experiential with my learning. I think
Yeah.
feels like, I think a lot of people are, but that could just be my own bias, but I know I am for sure.
I think so, because how many people don't learn after they leave school because they're not aware of their experiences and what they go through, and it takes them a while to learn. And they're not just getting forced into reading whatever school is teaching them. You have to be aware of your environment to learn anything.
Which brings me to my next part of my fit quest.
All right.
I'm trying to keep a log on my workouts, and I go in and out of it. But because I do go in and out of it, I do keep it throughout the years, which is nice. I at least get like a good, like a couple, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 every year, but I want to up that number basically.
Yeah.
I've been keeping a log and I've been keeping a journal, and especially this last program, I felt pretty good with how I kept it. And I've been writing little notes and reactions and whatnot. And I really like writing little notes or reactions or ideas that pop up after the workout. Try not to write it during the workout at all, but it also, because I like doing it, I get through my workout a little bit more efficiently because I'm like, I only have so much time for my workout. And if I want to write anything down, I got to stay on top. Can't get super ADD basically. But I feel like I figured out a couple things from this program. I'm pretty close to changing it. Maybe one more week of this program. Next, I'll probably do one more week, and then I've already started writing up what I'm going to be transitioning to. Starting to wonder if I should plan in like a break week, or I want to look a little bit forward into my calendar, because it's funny because I do it with my clients, but I don't do it with myself as much in terms of the looking forward in my calendar for my program plans.
And this is a good time of the year to start looking forward a little bit.
Yes, exactly. Which is what we'll talk about a little bit next. Yeah, I'm doing there. I really want to get into thrusters and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can't think because I need to run to the potty, as my daughter would say. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Hold on one sec. I'll mute it too. There we go. All right, I'm back.
All right. Perfect. I wrote it down.
That's a good test. I also want to figure out, I'll talk to you about it later. But the other part of the Fit Quest, I'm trying to work on thrusters more. I really like how I feel with them. And I feel like it's one of the few things CrossFit got.
Okay.
I would say. I think they fit a lot of my goals really well. I've been doing more compound movements. So I've been doing like clean and press, or swing to a squat, like some kettlebell compounds, basically.
Yeah. I love one arm thrusters. Are you going to be doing thrusters with a kettlebell? Like in your arm, probably? Okay.
Yep, exactly. And then I was thinking about I want to do a double kettlebell thruster. Honestly, I like double kettlebell thrusters locks. I like how that core bracing feels.
Yeah.
And it still allows my arms to be like freestanding. If I did a single kettlebell double hand, that's the ones I hate the most, is the single kettlebell double hand. It just doesn't feel right. And you're more in front of your body than you are to the side, basically. But yeah, things like that. I'm still going to keep compound movements. I'm just going to move to some different compound movements. I'm still going to work on balance, and a lot of it's going to stay very similar. It's going to be just like a general progression to program, the next program. But I'm working on that now. And it's nice to have a journal to write down thoughts and ideas, and hopefully stay on top of them a little bit more going into the holiday season.
Ooh, all right.
Look
We're
at
going
that.
to go. Great transition.
So that's what we want to talk about basically a little bit today, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of when you think of the holiday season, like health wise? What pops in your head first? I feel like for you, it's like candy and sweets, right?
Yeah, it's the amount of food and sweets that are going to be present pretty much from Halloween until New Year's.
I think of how it's going to be harder to do outdoors workouts, basically,
Oh, okay.
just logistically. I love my outdoors workouts like so much. I've gotten into a routine of doing them over the last couple of years. And it's weird because it's like when you get like a new high with something and then your standards are higher, and then the lows are so much lower, basically. And we got a really nice outdoors gym, basically. And I really like using it. And so I get into these really high highs working out in the outdoors gym around this time of the year. And then I know it's coming.
Do you think making a goal for yourself to do it during the winter time could help?
I do that. I do that. But it's usually, I have to have a frequency goal. I think this many times a week. And then I'd have to have a really good reason for it because I can't think of any right now, honestly.
Because a lot of times you wake up in the morning and you feel outside and it's 18 degrees and
Yeah,
you just decide, I can do this workout inside.
exactly. I think,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I think I just don't like working out in the basement as much, honestly. That's where it comes down to. But it's one of those things, it's just it aggravates me. It's that simple. It makes
Uh,
me bad. I'm like, why just get over it? I can't get over. I'm having a hard time getting over it. I think if I was a coach for myself, I'd put myself, I think there's something that I need to figure out how to scratch the itch that gets scratched in the morning with the indoors routine somehow.
Well,
Or
do you have a garage or like a barn you could set up like weights in?
like a covered area.
At least a covered area. I was
Yeah.
just thinking maybe a little enclosed to help, but even a garage gets cold during the winter.
I'm cool with garage. Yeah. A lot of it has to do with the footing, honestly, like the wetness or the mud, stuff like that. I would
Yeah.
say, and then the apparel and the amount of layers or whatever that you have to plan out and get dressed into without my kids jumping on me and or hearing me getting changed or waking up or all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, it's true. It's a little bit more planning, but I think
Yeah.
you could do it. You can make
Yeah.
it happen.
Okay. All right.
L- Last year, we took a little time off from FitQuest, but I walked almost every day this year, like in 2024.
Is a big one. I think if I walk more in the winter time, because then I'll be
Yeah.
outside and it'll scratch that itch without.
And it's
Yeah.
easy. It's like fairly easy. I would wear two pairs of pants, two pairs of socks,
Mm,
and I would walk in the snow or rain or whatever
there you
and
go.
20 degree weather.
Yeah.
And
I'm thinking of it the wrong way. I'm thinking like I have to get a workout outside. I have to do my regular gym workout outside. But I can
yeah.
still do my gym workout in the basement. I'll get a walk in, make the walk a higher priority and maybe start walking a little bit more right now in anticipation.
But you talked a little bit about rucking last week, and
Right.
rucking I think is a great thing to do, especially if it snows. Like I had to wear boots last year for a bunch of my walks, which I never do during the summertime. And so I did I was walking last year in the snow and ice and I had a 40-pound backpack on my back and I was just walking and man, I hit this thing of ice and this 200-pound guy just flipped
Oh,
upside down and landed on my
side.
hip.
Uh,
And I just was like, all right, I'm almost 40 and I feel fine after doing that. So I must be doing something right.
exactly. That's a good way to look at it. So what's your strategy for the sweets? What are
Oh,
you looking at?
so strategy coming up for
Mhm,
this year.
mhm.
It's funny, we had that addiction episode and that habit episode, and this is where I really feel when I fall into those
Mm,
because I feel it this week, like when I got hurt. And then I know, so what I think I need to do is I need to, for Halloween, not allow candy before Halloween and then also after Halloween. So we can't just like how we usually buy an extra bag and it just sits around. And then all of a sudden I eat 30 pieces of candy throughout the week leading up to Halloween. So I know that's a big thing. One big thing I'm doing is besides getting hurt last week, I was trying to really focus for September and October on my lifting and ramping up a little bit so that I had a little bit more muscle on me going into the holidays and which I think can help a little bit at least maybe give me some mental motivation to be like, all right, I got to keep this going. And
yeah,
then but those are going to be my main things right now is just not having it in the house. Then cuz into with the habit and addiction thing is that once I do say 2 or 3 or 4 days of a sweet, like if like I got two cakes last week for my birthday. And I think I talked a little bit about this last week, but what happens when I get 2 cakes is that I eat cake like at least just like a piece a day for 7 days. But I think that starts the addiction or starts the habit, as we'll call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
so I
create
need
a
to focus.
routine. Something you do every day can become a routine really quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't ever claim here on FitQuest that I'm like the perfect personal trainer or something like that. I try and be real, but I know it's coming, and so I need to focus on my training, and I need to focus on just not having access to it.
Mhm.
Uh, and then once there will be access because I have other personalities in this house, like a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old and a wife who all love sweets.
Yeah.
Then so what I'm gonna have to do is I'm just gonna have to what can I do? I know that I'll eat a little bit,
Yeah.
and I just gotta make sure that I don't do what I just said. Don't eat it 3 or 4 days in a row.
You ready for the intervention? I
Do
get,
my best.
I'm not
Yeah,
going to
go ahead, Mark.
get intervention, but what do you get out of, what do you like about the things, or what do you look forward to? Like, why do you look forward to it? Does that make sense?
Why do I look forward to what?
So think of a candy that you really like, or think of a sweet that you really like around Halloween.
Halloween, I
Um,
love all candy.
you don't discriminate.
It's chocolate.
Okay.
Chocolate I love.
If I give you a plate, okay. If I give you a plate
Yeah.
and I gave you 2 hands size, if I put both my hands together and that was the size of a plate, like a medium like a
Yeah.
medium plate, like a side salad plate.
You're right.
Okay. And
I
you can't stack anything on top of itself, and you put the candies on there. Can you like visualize like what you would put on there?
I don't think I love anything that much. It would just be chocolate, maybe some M&Ms.
Okay.
Like, let's just say M&Ms. What I look forward to the most is anything that's homemade. Like, I love anything that's a one-off because anytime anybody makes a cookie, it's a
Yeah.
one-time
Homemade
thing.
cake one. Yep. I'm with homemade cookies, by the way. Uh-huh.
And I think the big thing is I know that I'm gonna gain some weight.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not trying to like, if I wanted to just have 0 sweets this year,
Right.
first off, I would just say, "Why?" Like, I ha
Okay.
like, the bet would have to it would be have to be a crazy bet where I would be getting a significant amount of money because one of the biggest things I enjoy is I love the holiday season, and I love having a homemade sweet,
Yeah.
and the candy actually is the worst because I don't love candy. It's just that if chocolate is there, like in front of me, it's just something that I've always done. And maybe that's because there's lots of reasons, but I've always been somebody who's a little bit overweight and I just love the food. I don't know. Like, I just love the chocolate.
There's like a strong amount of dopamine that's released, basically. Right.
Yeah,
I would say
I would guess.
so. Like, I have a problem with ice cream, even though I have dairy issues. Like, I'll still eat some ice. You put some ice cream that looks really good to me in front of me and I'm hungry, like it's gone, basically.
Right.
Um, but I think about if we go like the addiction route. Have you ever heard of when they do needle clinics, for example?
Yep.
And then some of those free needle clinics will even give out the drug, or they'll give out like a lesser version of the drug
Right.
or different versions of the drug. Some of them give like cleaner versions, which are like higher highs than the actual
Yeah.
drug. Um, and s- I, if you look at that research, some of the things I had to look at the research for grad school a lot because I once you pick like a topic, it's easier to write about it again too when other papers come up. And it was really interesting to see like it seemed like some demographics or areas, the needle strategy, just the cleaner needle helped. Okay. Some areas, the nicer drug helped, and some areas like the lower quality drug helped. But it was hard to figure out like what's going to work where and how.
Right.
And like, how do you assess for what strategy is going to be the most effective? That was back in, it was like 2016, I would say. So
Okay.
I'd be interested to see what it looks like now. But I think of those strategies a lot when people are just talking about like food addictions in a way or food habits, basically.
Right.
And I know because I know there's a lot of really good literature on replacement strategies and just figuring out what like the really good replacement strategy is for you. So
Right.
that is an example of a couple different replacement strategies. So it's like if you like chocolate a lot, getting yourself used to a higher quality chocolate it could possibly work. For
Yeah.
example, you
Just get
know,
that pure 100% cocoa.
I don't know what the needle is a good metaphor for, like the delivery method for food, honestly. I can't think of anything for that one. But then the other one is giving yourself the lower quality ones as well, and only having the lower quality ones if you're thinking about having a higher amount, for example.
Right. Right.
Um, and that's one of those things I don't hear about a lot as strategy, honestly. And then being more mindful around it, I think tracking it can help a lot. You know,
Sure.
like if you want to, like, say you can have whatever amount you want, but then think of an amount that's probably going to be, I'm probably not going to be happy if I have this much and then put a tally mark down, for example. But then there is a point where this is just, you got to live your life and enjoy the experience, right?
Yeah, because I'm not going to be that person at my Halloween party
Yeah. Little
with the
tally marks and
pen and
notes.
paper counting my M&Ms,
Check.
like 3 greens, 4 yellows.
Oh, you're going to go into I was just thinking like the quantity, but you can go color. Yeah. Yeah. Like, well, imagine how quick that would make you like slow down. So, right?
Yeah, the paper would go right in the trash. That's for sure.
Yeah. So there's things like that, but who knows if they're going to work. And then the thing is really it's your emotional status is the gatekeeper, I would say. And if your emotions aren't going too crazy all year long, I think you'll be okay. Like you might have a dip and then you know that like, I'm going to come out of this dip in a way that's a dangerous thing to say to people who are like close to the edge, but you don't seem like you're close to the edge, honestly. Maybe you will be once we get to November though.
Yeah, like the biggest question, the week after Halloween, like around November 7th, I'll know how I'm doing
There you go.
because a week after a bunch of candy has been in the house, like
Yeah.
I'll know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Like I don't, and also like, I think this is more of an issue of younger people than older people.
okay.
I feel as you get older, like you come to peace with like experience versus like health choices.
Yeah.
It may not be like a well balanced piece. I would say for a lot of people are in like fuck it mode, basically.
Yeah.
Honestly, they're
Yeah.
closer to that side of the spectrum than they are like stringent health rules,
Yeah.
I would say. And I think more people probably need to go closer to that. But I think it's easier to go closer to that if you're at where you are right now. Like just keep doing what you're doing, have that guiding principle or in value, and you keep that up there and you don't let the it's hedonism at a certain level.
Sure.
You just don't let the hedonism go too nuts.
So the keys then for me would be don't be at a higher point of my habit before Halloween.
Mhm.
Don't let the candy stay around after Halloween. Those two things I should be in the clear.
Those are like your primary indicators, right? If we thought of this like a health experiment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
We spent a bunch of time on it. Do you have any minutes to like we didn't even really break into everything about the holiday season.
Okay. Okay. So let's do some top three. We covered some of the top three. I think
We did.
so. What's the third one? So like top three are probably, it's harder to
Increase
get workout in because of the environmental changes. And then the other one is increase in increase in like sweets or high calorie density foods.
Yeah, because of all the gatherings and whatnot.
Right.
I guess environment is the shorter time. It's dark at 5 o'clock at night. Like on the East Coast, when you get home from work at 5 or 6 o'clock and it's dark, there's pretty low motivation for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yes. And the changing, I think it's very useful for people to remember to think about how just the sun changing is going to affect their health strategy going
Yeah.
into the season. Yeah, for sure. And the people who are in a pretty good routine already are thinking about this, I believe. It's the people who maybe just got into a good routine in the spring or summer, and they're trying to keep that routine going right now. And it's not to scare people or anything like that. It's like winter's coming, Game of Thrones style,
Yeah,
but
but prepare and become aware.
be prepared. Yep. And it may not go exactly like you like, but be aware so you can learn from it. And like you said, this time last year, we talked about it, for example, and that helps your level of awareness and your planning and whatnot. And it helps you direct yourself in a way that's more true to yourself.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You got that. You got it. You
Okay.
nailed it. We pretty much went through most things and most strategies, right? Keep your activity level up high.
You know what? I think a good one that you made me think of, and I think I just want to reiterate it and I'll remind myself of it. If you're changing things, you got to think about how much of a change is it and maybe lower your standards by a lot. Let's say maybe most likely, because my standard when we were talking about it was like full workout routine, just like I'm doing right now outside. And just maybe I'll need to like rig up all these things and strategies and plan ahead more. And I know that's going to be too much of a load to be as frequent as I am right now to do that.
Right.
Like either I'm going to have to be okay with the lower frequency, something's going to break basically. But if I make if I shift my priority a little bit more to a lower like work, a lower amount of work to get to it, like walking, for
Mhm.
example, like I make that a little bit higher priority than the workout. I know I'm still going to crave the workout, but the walking will get me outside and it'll replace that outside feeling that I need. Like I need to be outside. Like I go a little bit nuts when I'm not, and I'm way happier when I am.
So if you're changing something, make whatever you change it to a little bit easier
Than you expect.
than you expect. Okay.
Start
I like it.
easier and try to get into a good run, like maybe a week before you adjust and increase.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it.
So I'm gonna try and walk more, and I gotta set up some reminders to do that now.
All right. Well, it's beautiful outside. That's the only reminder you need, right?
Yeah, biking. Well, like I told you before, but like I need to actually walk in some of those biking times. I think coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I like it, man.
Yep.
All right. We're good.
I will see you later. Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right, guys. Peace.